Morning friends, happy Tuesday, how the heck you doing? And after the absolute fiasco which was Trooping of the Colour on Saturday, all the booing and Kate's icy stares, nothing says we're in it together like these images released from yesterday. The Order of the Garter, yet another inappropriate and outdated ceremony in 2026 which cost the UK millions of pounds. Trooping of the Colour cost tens of millions. The police force costs alone were over $1 million. Yesterday, again, Charles and William wearing capes that literally cost £50,000 to make. Are these people ever going to learn? Are these people ever going to really look behind where the boos came from, why they were there, and what the protesters need and meant? No. They're out again today, in force, dressed up to the nine with £19,000 earrings, just showing that for them, the gravy train continues. I think the protests are going to get worse in 2026 and 2027. I really feel we're going to find out new developments about Andrew's situation in the next couple of weeks. That's why this lot are out in force. Stay tuned. It's going to be a train wreck.
So the royal family just rolled straight from Trooping of the Colour into the Order of the Garter like it's business as usual, and people are watching that and going, wait, what world is this? One day you've got these huge, expensive ceremonies with soldiers, horses, carriages, the full production. The next day, it's another historic event with even more pageantry, and the price tag behind it isn't exactly pocket change. And meanwhile, regular people are out here dealing with rent going up, food prices climbing, bills that don't take a day off. That's where voices like Martin Gould step in and say the obvious thing a lot of people are already thinking. There's a growing distance between the people at the top and the people on the ground. Because when the public is shouting about cost of living and what they see on TV is million-pound ceremonies back to back, it creates a feeling, fair or not, that two completely different realities are running side by side in the same country. And in that gap, frustration builds fast, especially in a world where everything gets posted, clipped, and judged in seconds online. You look at these grand royal ceremonies and you can almost hear ordinary people asking the same question. Who exactly is this for? Seriously, people are counting every pound at the supermarket. Rent is biting. Energy bills have become a monthly horror movie. Families are stretching budgets so far they deserve Olympic medals. Then the cameras cut to another parade, another procession, another centuries-old ceremony with robes, feathers, medals, horses, and enough tradition to fill a museum. And the reaction from a lot of people is simple. Read the room. The Order of the Garter might be packed with history, but history doesn't pay the gas bill. History doesn't lower food prices. History doesn't help the parent staring at a bank account wondering how they're going to make it to payday. That's where the frustration comes from. It's not that people don't understand tradition. Most people get it. They understand symbolism. They understand heritage. What they don't understand is why there always seems to be money, attention, security, planning, and resources for these elaborate displays while everyday struggles keep piling up outside the palace gates. The contrast is impossible to miss. One side is dressed in velvet and gold, the other side is hunting for discounts and comparing prices on basic groceries. One side is celebrating rituals that date back hundreds of years, the other side is trying to figure out how to survive the next 100 days. And that's why these events spark such strong reactions, because for many people they feel less like a connection to the nation and more like a reminder of how far removed some institutions appear from ordinary life. The world has changed fast. People are talking about housing costs, mental health, online safety, wages, and the future their children are inheriting. Those are the conversations happening around dinner tables, in workplaces, on buses, and all over social media. So when another extravagant ceremony rolls around, some people don't see inspiration, they see a system still talking about yesterday while everyone else is worried about tomorrow. And that's the real issue. The frustration isn't coming from people who hate history. It's coming from people who want priorities that feel connected to the reality they're living every single day. There is a growing feeling among many people that the United Kingdom is changing, but some of its oldest institutions are struggling to change with it. That's where the frustration starts. For years, the public has been told that the monarchy represents the nation, but more and more people are asking a simple question: which nation? Because the reality many families are experiencing today looks very different from the image often presented by the royal family. People are worried about housing, they're worried about rising bills, they're worried about public services, wages, and what kind of future younger generations are walking into. Those are the conversations happening in homes, workplaces, cafes, and communities across the country. Yet when many people look at the monarchy, they see an institution that often appears focused on preserving traditions rather than addressing the concerns dominating everyday life. That's where the gap becomes impossible to ignore. The country has changed dramatically over the past few decades. The public is more diverse, more connected, more vocal. People expect transparency, they expect accountability, they expect influential institutions to demonstrate that they understand the pressures facing ordinary citizens. Instead, what critics often see is an endless cycle of ceremonies, processions, formal appearances, and carefully managed symbolism. And eventually, people begin asking whether the institution is adapting to the modern world or simply expecting the modern world to adapt to it. Because for many citizens, respect is no longer something automatically granted because of history. It has to be earned through relevance, understanding, and connection to the lives people are actually living. The issue isn't that people have suddenly stopped caring about the country's history, it's that history alone doesn't solve today's problems. Tradition doesn't reduce the cost of living. Ceremony doesn't make housing more affordable. Pageantry doesn't answer the concerns people have about the future. That's why calls for change keep growing louder, not necessarily because everyone agrees on what that change should look like, but because many people feel the gap between the institution and everyday life has become too large to ignore. And when that feeling takes hold, every public appearance, every ceremony, and every display of tradition ends up being judged through the same question: does this institution truly understand the country as it exists today, or is it still speaking to a version of Britain that no longer exists? The question a lot of people are asking right now is pretty straightforward. Are the royals ever going to get the message? Because from the outside, it can look like the public says one thing and the palace hears something completely different. Trooping of the colour barely wraps up, people are still debating the reaction from the crowds, and then it's straight into another grand ceremony. More pageantry, more tradition, more photographs, more pomp, more displays of wealth and status. And for a lot of ordinary people watching at home, the contrast is impossible to ignore. King Charles and Prince William appear in elaborate ceremonial regalia, complete with feathered hats, robes, and decorations tied to centuries-old traditions. Catherine arrives in yet another carefully curated outfit for another day of headlines and front-page photographs. The cameras love it, the newspapers love it, the royal commentators love it, but a lot of regular people are sitting there thinking, am I supposed to relate to this? Because while the royal calendar keeps rolling, everyday life keeps getting harder for millions of people. Families are budgeting every supermarket trip. Parents are calculating which bills can wait and which ones can't. Young people are wondering whether they'll ever be able to afford a home. Pensioners are worrying about heating costs. Workers are putting in longer hours and feeling like they're getting less in return. Then they switch on the television and are greeted with another display of ceremony, privilege, and tradition that feels completely disconnected from the pressures dominating everyday life. That's where the frustration comes from. It's not really about one hat, it's not really about one coat, it's not even about one ceremony. It's about the bigger picture. It's about the feeling that no matter what is happening in the country, the institution presents the exact same image, the exact same priorities, and the exact same message. The world outside palace gates has changed dramatically. People are talking about online safety, they're talking about mental health, they're talking about housing, wages, food prices, and the future their children are inheriting. Those are the conversations happening around dinner tables, in workplaces, on buses, and all over social media. Yet the monarchy often seems most comfortable communicating through symbolism, processions, and traditions that date back hundreds of years. And eventually, people start asking whether those priorities still reflect the mood of the public. Because in 2026, attention isn't earned simply because something is old. Respect isn't automatic because something is historic. People want relevance. They want awareness. They want to feel like influential institutions understand the reality they're living through. When that connection feels weak, criticism naturally grows louder. And that's why these debates keep returning. Not because people have forgotten history, not because they don't understand tradition, but because every time another lavish royal spectacle appears on their screens, many viewers are left wondering whether the people at the center of it truly understand what life looks like for everyone else. Thanks for watching. I'm your host, Miles. If you made it all the way to the end, congratulations. You've officially survived another royal roller coaster without needing a feathered hat, a carriage, or a centuries-old title. If you enjoyed the video, hit that like button, subscribe, and join the community where we keep it real, keep it honest, and occasionally ask the questions that some people would rather avoid. Until next time, take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and remember, the comment section is free, but your peace of mind is priceless. I'm Miles, and I'll catch you in the next one.